Come on. Number 2740, what on earth are you?
People are welcome to protest, people are welcome to make their point, where they're committing criminal offences in public, then
no one has ever died from cannabis, sir.
by all means have a protest, but not...
All over the world, attitudes towards cannabis are changing. Cannabis is the most commonly used illegal drug in the UK. Over 2 million people in England and Wales admit to taking it last year.
I can't help feeling victimised. Government needs to realise they are wrong. I spent so much time nurturing and now my herbal medicine has gone.
I'm at Westminster, where people have gathered to support Paul Flynn's second reading of legalising medicinal cannabis bill here in the UK. It's now a polarising topic in endless debates. This film will explore the current controversy around medicinal cannabis here in the UK. Some believe it is helping those with epilepsy. Should medicinal cannabis be legalised? It's clear to see that each person here truly believes that cannabis has benefited their lives or someone's they know.
And I'm not a doctor, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm forced to do this because no drug they've given me has helped my son. Only THC oil, which relaxes my son naturally.
The main psychoactive compound of cannabis, called THC, is still illegal here in Britain.
Because I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead, okay?
John Liebling is the director of the United Patients Alliance. The United Patients Alliance are pushing for the legalisation of medicinal cannabis.
But really the only group that are really helping patients across the country is us. And none of us are doctors. You know, we're giving people what is effectively advice on taking medication. That's what we need to do, is to be able to educate doctors. But we can't educate doctors while cannabis is in Schedule 1, because as far as doctors are concerned, it has no medicinal value. Why do they need to learn about it?
I'm on my way to Birmingham to visit one of the UK's youngest medicinal cannabis patients.
You are my sunshine, my sunshine.
A 6-year-old sufferer of childhood epilepsy.
You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my Jayla away. Hey, hey! My name's Louise and this is my daughter Jayla, and she's 6 and she's got an undiagnosed degenerative brain disorder. She can't walk or talk and she has seizures sometimes. She gets fed through her stomach. The doctors told us that there was nothing that we could do and that she was drug resistant and that all we could do was take her home and make her life worth living as much as we can. Jayla's tried hundreds of medications which didn't seem to do anything other than load her up and sedate her.
Desperate for something that would make a difference to Jayla, and without the help of medical professionals, 3 years ago, Louise looked for alternative treatments online.
Just bombarded me with messages saying, have you tried cannabis oil for seizures? It's doing so many things. The first time I ever gave it my baby, just her eyes just lit up and it's just put life back into her eyes. I could tell immediately. I'm talking about you, and are you getting better?
Since starting on the cannabis oil, Jayla hasn't had a seizure like this one for over 3 months.
Every seizure, we didn't know if she was going to come out of it. We didn't know if she was going to get that gaspable breathing back. So when she's like that, get the oil, rub it in her gums. Jayla. Who is anybody to say what's right for your child? In my eyes, this cannabis plant is Jayla's medicine. So that on her hospital notes, Jayla, medicine, cannabis oil. So why aren't you funding that cannabis oil? It doesn't get us stoned, it's for medicinal purposes. So nice, can you feel that going in your belly? So it's Jayla's medicine.
I'm heading to Newcastle to meet a professor of neurology and a brain injury expert who specialises in rehabilitation medicine.
The cannabis plant has something like 140 compounds called cannabinoids. We actually surprisingly know very little about well over 100 of those, so there's a lot of potential for the future. But the things we do know a lot about are the main psychoactive component called THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, and CBD, cannabidiol, which is not psychoactive. Recently I did a report for the government where we reviewed all the literature for cannabis and how efficacious it was and the side effects. And we found there was good evidence, really, even perhaps now, 2 years later, move epilepsy into the good evidence side of the equation, because there's quite a lot of studies now completed, particularly in the States, that show particularly the CBD compound is very useful for drug-resistant epilepsy in childhood.
But there is one part of the UK where medicinal cannabis has been prescribed by the NHS. I'm on my way to Northern Ireland to meet the first legal medicinal cannabis patient in the UK. "12-year-old Billy Caldwell and his mum, Charlotte.
Billy was diagnosed with intractable epilepsy when he was 4 months old. He's on the highest spectrum of autism.
Due to the waiting list here in the UK, Charlotte took Billy to the US to meet an epilepsy specialist.
I was obviously disappointed that we had to leave our own country to go and get Billy the help that he so desperately needed.
Before accessing medicinal cannabis, Billy could suffer up to 100 seizures a day.
We had got Billy to a stage where his seizures were in remission for 8 years, and then they came back, and they came back with a vengeance.
After several tests, the US doctor found a lesion on Billy's brain.
They couldn't remove it without removing all of the left temporal lobe, which would have meant that Billy would have lost his speech and his memory, hence his ability to walk, his ability to pick up his toys or play, etc. He would have lost his memory totally.
Charlotte was given medicinal cannabis by a doctor in the US.
We didn't go looking for medicinal cannabis to the US. The pharmaceuticals weren't working anymore. And Billy was started first on cannabis oil, CBD on its oil, no THC or no THCA. Medicinal cannabis has made a huge difference to Billy regarding his ability to walk, his ability to interact with other people and interact with me, his eye contact, his interest in his toys, his books.
Push, look, push, push. Go on, you can do it. Push.
Back in the consultation with the medicinal cannabis doctor, he said we can try a little bit of THCA. So THCA is actually THC, but with the psychoactive element taken out of it. And that's actually what worked for Billy. And we actually got him to just over 300 days seizure free, which was truly amazing for us.
After 8 months in the US, Charlotte knew what worked for Billy and that it was time to come home. She soon realised the problem she faced due to the illegality of THCA in Britain.
I didn't have a fear of coming back. It was his medicine. This was saving his life. So I could not leave it in the US and not come home, because I knew my son would die without it, because the epilepsy would have just returned. I was going to be open and honest and transparent and just get on the aircraft and land on Irish soil and declare his medicine and show the customs the proof.
Customs allowed her through, and Charlotte and Billy made it home with the medicine. When Billy's THCA oil was running low, Charlotte turned to a local GP who surprisingly prescribed Billy the medicine.
Initially, I didn't think about any of, that this is the first prescription on the NHS, or this is the first person to be prescribed medicinal cannabis in the United Kingdom and Ireland. At that particular moment in time, I was just so happy that he actually was going to receive his medicine in our home country. It's an amazing medicine, but again, it has to be treated with respect like any other medicine. And I can't reiterate enough how important it is that it is medically supervised by your doctor. I never thought that cannabis would be the medicine that was going to save Billy.
I think it is important, particularly in the UK, to differentiate between recreational cannabis and medicinal cannabis. And we're making criminals out of people with disabilities who need and will benefit from those products. The sooner we legalise it and can sort all that out, the better.
And just to think that they could just write you off by saying that there's no hope. There is hope. You just need to give it to them.
The third reading of Paul Flynn's medicinal cannabis bill will be heard at Parliament in July.
A crime is an Oxford dictionary. A crime by definition has to have a victim. A rule crime.
We're going to win. Onward we'll go, and the campaign continues. This is a point on it, a point where we can see victory in sight. Thank you very much.